Tāmaki Hiringa Waka, Tāmaki Hiringa Tangata, Tāmaki Makaurau. Tēnei mātou e muri aroha tonu nei ki te makau, kua ngaro ki te pō, kia tāsh taku tai kim. E te tua wahine oki mai rā. Huri rawa kia koutou ngā mata ora o te ao Māori, nau mai, tahuti mai. Welcome to Mata, brought to you by Te Māngai Pāho and Irirangi Te Motu, New Zealand on air. We are just days out from polls opening in the Tāmaki-Makau-Rua by-election and a fortnight away from election day itself. The race for this electorate is coming down to the wire. In this episode, we are joined by the two leading contenders, Labour's Peeni Henare and Te Pāti Māori's Oriini Kaipara. In the biggest Polynesian city in the world, we ask what is truly at stake for whānau, from housing to health to the future of te reo Māori. He wānanga nui kei te haere. Peeni, Oriini, tēnā kōrua, nau mai.
Kia ora.
Ko ngā wangawanga nui, the major concerns for whānau are cost of living, housing, transport, engari, mātua i tēnei hōtaka. First, we begin with te reo. We're about to celebrate 50 years of Te Wiki o Te Reo Māori, Māori Language Week, 50 years, and in Tāmaki-Makau-Rua, whānau are on 2-year wait lists for Kohanga Reo and are driving all the way across town just to get their tamariki some reo education. Where did we go wrong, Peeni? How come successive governments haven't invested in Kohanga Reo infrastructure, staff, or repurposed the structure?
Yeah, look, it's been a failure right across the board for such a good kaupapa. Even in our time when we lifted the pay for those who work in Kohanga Reo, the ask also was for capital investment so that they can build new whare. And we couldn't get that across the line at the time. But it's clear that it's needed. What we see, though, is what's currently happening is the government is currently shifting all of early childcare money into those big, large Pākehā organisations that, funnily enough, make donations to them. And that's where that money is going. And I think we've got a job to do to make sure that there's some equity in there.
Should you have done more when you had the chequebook? And if you do get the chequebook back, what will you do to actually breathe some life into the infrastructure of Kohanga Reo?
Yeah, look, I've always said it, I'm a Kohanga baby, and I love the kaupapa of Kohanga Reo. When we had the chequebook, there were lots of competing interests, and I'm proud of what we did across housing and other spaces, but it's no doubt we need to do more.
Oriini, a news story from earlier this year puts the number of Kohanga Reo at 400, down from 460 about a decade ago. Teacher shortage, lack of resources, low wages, even though Peeni gave them a bit of a bump, and a lack of trust in the establishment have been raised as the issues behind that decline. Is the model still fit for purpose?
Is the model still fit for purpose? I believe it is so, but what the problem is, and we've highlighted it, is the inequities. And, the Kohanga Reo have challenged the system through the Waitangi Tribunal and have actually for a long time been screaming for support and more capacity and capability building. And so Te Pāti Māori, we've just released our policy on education, and we are firmly supporting those calls from Kohanga Reo right across the board and are committed to investing real money into Kohanga Reo, and not just that, but to build the capacity recognition of kaiako qualifications. As we know, our kaiako are not being paid what they deserve because their qualifications are always not looked at as in the same light as mainstream teaching or ECE.
How do we make access more achievable, on the ground here in Tāmaki-Makau-Rua?
Yeah, capacity is really where the concern is. We've heard from the industry themselves, and I myself, as not just the Kohanga Reo baby, but a Kohanga Reo mama, know intimately the struggle that every single Kohanga Reo, especially here in Tāmaki-Makau-Rua, go through. They want to accept, they want to allow for every mokopuna, every mama and papa who are trying to reconnect. And the reason why we put our kids into kohanga is because of the colonization of our reo from previous whakareanga, ngā whakatipuranga imua, our kaumātua, our nans and koros were punished for speaking te reo. Our parents weren't granted that, that aspiration as tamariki themselves. They didn't grow up with the reo. Their parents didn't give it to them. They gave it to the mokopuna. Those mokopuna are myself, all three of us sitting around this table. And so we need to ensure that intergenerational succession of te reo continues, because as we know, Mihi, it only takes one generation to kill te reo. It takes 3 to get it back back. So Te Pāti Māori is the only party right now that is committed to prioritising Māori, and especially our Kohanga Reo whānau, our kura kaupapa Māori, but also rumaki kura a iwi anywhere where te reo Māori is implemented right now, but making it accessible, a core subject in all mainstream schools.
What's the big sea change, Peeni? I actually am too old for Kohanga Reo. That's giving away my age. But, you know, my kids are 24 and 22 now, and I was that mama that actually my TV3 phone had Kohanga written on there. It was a bit of a joke because I used to have to, like, get the staff because we never had enough staff. And so these stories are the same for decades now. So what's the big sea change? Is it charter schools? Should that be the option that communities can just, you know, apply for a charter school and set up a kohanga?
Look, we love Kohanga Reo, we do. But there are other avenues here. We've got Puna Reo now. A lot of iwi are starting their own early childcare centres, which are all te reo Māori speaking childcare centres. And that's meeting the demand that our whānau have.
But do
of
they get
these
the start-up like the
institutions.
charter school, where you get the money up front and you're able to build your dreams? Should that be the way?
That's one avenue. That's the point here. Iwi, some of them are funding it themselves and doing it themselves. I know Ngāti Hine my iwi have done the same thing. Kohanga Reo was failing in our rohe, so we built our own ECE, which is all te reo Māori, but run as an ECE, which is a standard that a lot of our whānau now expect when you send your tamaiti or your pipi to school.
So you're not opposed to charter schools?
Look, I've made it clear. I've always been a fan of the ability for kura and for communities to decide what's best for them. What I don't accept, though, is that you take money from an already struggling public system and to put it into something else, to seed something that has no proven outcome. And we've seen that in David Seymour's call for charter schools. In fact, he did a big song and dance about it, and most of them are yet to get off the ground.
I want to pick up on that. No one believed in the Kohanga Reo movement in the early 1980s when it was first proposed then by the whānau, by the people. So they didn't wait for any permission. They didn't wait for the government to say it's okay for you. They didn't even listen to the Māori who didn't believe in the value of te reo, and that te reo will get you somewhere in life. In fact, everybody said at the start, te reo's not going to get you anywhere. Being a Kohanga Reo kid is going to further isolate you. So there wasn't belief then, but look at where we are now,
Absolutely.
how far we have come.
And these parents want to see their tamariki in Kohanga Reo, but they're waiting, or they're driving k's and k's across town. And with the new road user charged at the pump and soon to be charged every 1,000 k's, hardly seems fair when your only kohanga or your kura is on the other side of town. What would Te Pāti Māori do with that? Get rid of it? Road user charges?
Yeah, absolutely. If it's further impoverishing our communities, anything that affects our whānau, and especially more charges, more money that's going out of their pockets, absolutely. Te Pāti Māori is fighting against anything that further entrenches poverty amongst our communities. We're already on the bottom line, so anything that's going to take money away from our whānau's pockets, our mama, our papa, our nannies and koros who have become parents all over again. There's a lot of people. So no, we're not going to allow for more charges to be inundating our whānau who are already struggling.
You've been out in the hapori. What are people telling you about their biggest concerns atu i te Kohanga Reo woes?
Yeah, well, atu most prominently right now is everybody is screaming for this government to get out. This government is doing way too much damage by the hour. It's unprecedented, the amount of hikoi, the amount of protests, instigated or initiated or provoked by any one government in the first 1 year and a half that they've been in term. So the majority of the people who have shared their whakaro, but also shared their concerns, it all leads back to this government cutting everybody at the knees. Beyond that, it's the voting system itself that is our people very concerned and confused.
Big problems need big solutions, Peeni. What's the big swing that your party can bring in? Because incremental change won't move the dial.
We've made it clear that we've got a big focus on our tax, and we'll be announcing our tax policy before the end of the year. But those are one of the fundamental shifts.
Sound like or look like? And how will it help?
Well, you usually have to wait for the announcement. I won't get ahead of it.
So it's some kind of big tax announcement, and what are you expecting from that? Because when you're in the hapori, what are they telling you about health, housing, and all the rest of it?
Yeah, so what we're expecting, though, is that whatever that tax change is, the spend or the revenue from that tax must be ring-fenced for the identified challenges that are faced in our community. That is housing and health at the moment. So, of course, cost of living are things that we can do over a period of time, but with respect, the big one that we're hearing about is housing and health. So if you look to restructure the tax system, you've got to make sure that people have confidence that whatever's being taken for tax is actually being spent on the things that are being promised here. So we've made it clear what our priorities are here, and that is, of course, employment, jobs, health and homes.
We're going to talk about Crown relations now. If we politely characterise this government's relationship with Māori as tense, how do you reset it?
You reset it by actually going back and listening and engaging meaningfully. When you go in with an already set agenda, which is what this government did, which is why we shouldn't be surprised at the poor relationship between Māori and the Crown at the moment, you've got to go back and literally back to square one on many places. The other part, though, is there are a number of iwi who are beyond square one. And you've got to engage them where they choose to be. And where a lot of them choose to be are in big business, are in areas where our people need them to be, like housing, health and other spaces. So it isn't simply just a full reset. It is about meeting them where they are and where they choose to be.
Te Pāti Māori has branded themselves unapologetic, kei a koutou tērā, but how do you leverage that into constructive change? What are the big levers that you want to pull if you're in power?
Yeah, Te Pāti Māori is the only one that is upfront about its intentions. Yeah, unapologetic is the word, but it means prioritising Māori and not wavering on that. When we say we are going to entrench te tiriti, and excuses aside, that is our number one focus, because without te tiriti, every single one of us is walking on shaky ground. I mean, the fact that act as the minority party, but making a lot of noise and a lot of progress, just shows that, you know, we're not safe at all without te tiriti being fully entrenched across every legislation that exists, but also making it available or accessible in our schools. You know, implementing a real change, transformational change, $1 billion to the health. To rectify the health situation, to turn those stats upside down so that kaore te Māori noho ki raro hei papa ki runga i ona no whenua, engari ki ara ki te Māori. It's changing the system as it stands right now, because as we know, it has never been designed for Māori by Māori, and Te Pāti Māori is the only party that is doing that.
How do you proactively fight the pushback from Pākehā who feel if Māori get something, it's coming at their expense? You know, unapologetically Māori, but you want to, you know, haere tahi, pupuriringa.
Yeah, well, being unapologetically Māori doesn't mean we're only for Māori and nobody else. Absolutely not. We are focused heavily on Māori because Māori feature heavily in the worst stats possible. I mean, ko tātou kei raro, 7 years before everybody else, that is our mortality rate, and it has been like that for generations, but also for decades. I remember when I first got into the industry as a reporter, as a budding reporter, it was in 2004. I was 18 at the time, and the hikoi went right past, and I was still learning back then, you know, the art and craft of being a journalist, but also what politics was, why we were fighting against a Labour government then for our rights to foreshore and seabed. We weren't saying that we own the entire foreshore and seabed, but our role is kaitiakitanga, and that's what we say when we are unapologetic. We're here to support everybody that's vulnerable, and that equals 68% of the country. Our whānau are also whaikaha, our whānau are also turi, our whānau are also incarcerated more than anybody else. We make up a significant amount of the incarceration rates. We know this.
The challenge here, though, Tuahine, it's easy to say we're going to entrench te tiriti o Waitangi. When we're in power, we put te tiriti o Waitangi.
But it didn't go far enough, Peeni.
Well, it's now being removed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
the point
right.
is it's being removed, but it's easy to say entrenched. When you say entrenched, you need 75% of the House to entrench a piece of legislation. What we're not seeing from any of the minor parties is a way to unite that number, 75% plus, to actually do that.
Are you leading as the powerful one in the middle on the left, though? Are you holding hands and creating space for that kōrero?
Yeah, most definitely. I meet with Rawiri, we meet with Rawiri and Chloe and Marama on a regular basis on a number of things. We don't agree on everything.
Let me put that question to you then. How do you move forward? I mean, because you say that you entrenched the te tiriti into legislation, and now it's just been pulled
No,
back.
no. This is the difference. I want to be very clear. We put te tiriti into legislation.
That's right, like
That's
a 7AA, but it's been taken
That's
out.
exactly right.
So how do you stop that from happening
So the
again?
point is, people say entrench it, like it's this easy thing to do. I'm saying to the whānau here that if you have 120 members in a parliament, you need 75% of that parliament.
What's the solution?
To be able to entrench it. Well, I can tell you what it isn't. It isn't pulling it all apart, because that's what's happening with the likes of ACT. What it actually has to do is you have to bring whānau together, whether you're on the right side of the spectrum or the left side.
Have to shift on. Mana whenua mā tā waka Ngāti Whātua say there are 4 iwi they recognise in Tāmaki-Makau-Rua, and the so-called 19 is a Crown construct, and Tāmaki-Makau-Rua, the council recognises 19. What gives iwi mana whenua in a city like Tāmaki-Makau-Rua?
You asking me? Oh, look, everyone knows that Tāmaki-Makau-Rua is a contested space for mana whenua. There are those that continue to stand strong on their mana whenua, the likes of Ngāti Whātua ki Ōrākei. There are others who are contesting to try and push into this rohe. And we know that a tikanga solution is the best way to be able to allow mana whenua to function collectively and collaboratively in Tāmaki-Makau-Rua. The problem is, though, is that there's always an out for too many. That means that they find themselves at the High Court, like most of them have in the past 5 to 10 years. So, there is a place here for all of us to exist. There's a place here for all of us to operate and look after not only mana whenua interests, but mā tāwaka interests. What I want to encourage amongst our mana whenua and iwi across Tāmaki-Makau-Rua is how can we do that and be pono to what we say about doing it in a tikanga construct and not a court construct, because ultimately all of it is ending back up at the court, which makes me question then what's the effectiveness of the tikanga construct.
Adding to the complexity, Oriini is urban Māori organisations like Muma, Uma, and a number of urban marae operating as service providers for Māori in the city. How do you balance Māori authorities in the city? What might have worked in the 1990s, does that model still work today with settled iwi who are back and in play?
Yeah, I want to pick up on what you said, in terms of Tāmaki-Makau-Rua, there are some iwi who only recognise 4 mana whenua, but, as a result of this city being supersized, becoming a super city, that's how we ended up with 19 iwi right across Tāmaki-Makau-Rua. And I want to touch on the fact that, the Tāmaki-Makau-Rua electorate is a part of that Crown construct. It doesn't cover actually the wider spread of Tāmaki-Makau-Rua. We've left out North Shore, Te Raki Pai Whenua. That doesn't mean they're not Tāmaki-Makau-Rua, but they don't fit within the paradigm of this construct, this Crown construct. So, it just shows that we are still, no matter what, we are still at the mercy of a Crown construct, no matter what. And it's unfair on iwi and mana whenua constantly being pitted against themselves, whether that's in court or the tribunals, but they are being forced to fight amongst themselves because that is how the Crown has designed this process.
Recently we had Cheryl Waka. She's a former black fern, and she was with us because she has stage 4 bowel cancer, too young for a test, so she wanted to talk about that. So under the National, some Māori health initiatives have been rolled back, as we all know. Bowel screening is one of those. We now have a universal age of 58. What's the plan if the 3 parties were to form a government in terms of Māori health? What is the plan? Kia kōrua tērā, Pātai.
Well, look, aroha atu ki tōku tuahine ki a Cheryl. I know her well, big time Northland, Taniwha, rugby player and Blackfern. I was the minister responsible for lowering the bowel screening age for Māori and Pacific people. This government did roll it back. The plan ultimately, though, is far more equity in health, and I thought we did a reasonably good job at starting to grow what a construct could be to deliver for Māori and for underserved communities. This government's obviously wiped those away. My leader's been quite clear that we've made a commitment to go back to looking towards a Māori health authority, strengthening the iwi Māori partnership boards, but more importantly, funding into communities where it's needed the most. And that's how you turn the dial on equity, by using that research, using the data that shows this is why you do it, and that's why we did it with bowel screening. This government doesn't listen to that.
Whanau Ora started with Te Pāti Māori, rolled out and has been kept because obviously it works to create responses in the community. Is that is that where you'd like to go as well with when we begin to start tackling some of these inequities in Māori health?
Yeah.
Is it through community organisations?
Absolutely. I mean, Te Pāti Māori is the only party that exists that is fully informed by Māori communities. So our policies are in alignment, direct alignment with the needs and wants of our whānau and of our communities. And as you mentioned, Whanau Ora was the pipe dream of the late Dame Tariana Turia, ka tahi anō ia ka mate, a iritana anō hoki and whatarangi winiata mei ana jury, and of course Papa Peter Sharples. And Whanau Ora, you know, it belongs to whānau. Whaia Tariana and Te Pāti Māori have always fought for that. Commissioning frees it from government bureaucracy, whānau-led solutions by whānau for whānau. And Labour and National have never honoured Whanau Ora as Dame Tariana dreamed of and as she intended. So Te Pāti Māori, our commitment at this point in 2025, going into a general election next year, is to throw $1 billion at it because it works, and we know it works.
That's a fair comment. Willie Jackson would say that what was his figure?
Well, I can tell you because I was the Whanau Ora minister when it started. It was at $40 million. It had to be bid for every new year, every new cycle. By the time I finished, it was worth $182 million and locked into baseline funding. It was the highest and most significant increase Whanau Ora has ever received. Furthermore, we were able to take money from corrections, take money from oranga tamariki to put it into the pipeline of Whanau Ora. So we stand by it, proudly by our
182 million there, and you want to take it to
$1 billion.
$1 billion. How will you pay for it?
Well, this government has clearly found $3 billion to throw at the military, so $1 billion isn't going to be hard to find.
Ka pai. The medium age for Tāmaki-Makau-Rua voter is just 27. You're both superb bilingual speakers, but can you speak rangatahi? I'm going to read out some rangatahi slang.
Okay.
Mā kōrua e whakamaori. Korite?
You got us on our toes.
They look very scared.
Yeah.
Pēne, mau e tīmata. It's giving.
Bugger to whānau.
Whakamaori. Au kāre koe te mārama ki te
Kind of
it's
Māori.
giving.
Ki te ngako o te kōrero.
Ai.
He māma noi ho te whakamaori i te kupu. Engari kāre au i te mōhio i te ngako o te kōrero.
Mōhio koe hea te giving? It's giving?
Ai, kei te rongo.
Kei
Kei
te
te rongo hara mai te reka. No, I don't know.
Te
I
no
reckon,
kai.
but I probably got that wrong.
Slay.
Slay. All in context, he māma noi ho te kiatu kōhuru patua aha ko te take.
Wepua.
Wepua, ka pai. Okay, dalulu.
Pōrangi ake nei.
Nei rongo atu hau, yeah, Chris Hipkins ki roto I te whare question time yesterday, he used that term.
Okay.
That's why I know that one.
Salty.
Salty.
Yeah, whakamaori.
Harawene.
Kawa.
What the helly?
Oh, I know this one. Heaha? No, that was a real soft one.
Yeah.
What the helly?
Yeah.
E aua.
E aua. Riz. Kei a koe te riz?
O kua kite atu koe I taku taira.
Koe ra. Baddie. He baddie koe?
Kaki no ke hoki. That's a tūhoe one, by the way. No.
Tēnā rawa tū kōrua mō era kupu whakamaori. Yeah, tell me about the campaign. We're days away from voting to begin. How's it been for you, Peeni?
Look, it's been really awesome. It's been highly energetic, and you know, if we think back to 2023, it was difficult for a Labour-led government at the time to campaign regardless of what we did. What we know now, though, is our people everywhere, Māori, Pākehā, Tauiwi, hate this government. And it's really easy to have conversations about listening to what their concerns are and hearing what the solutions could be for the community. So it's been energetic. I've been heartened by all of the whānau who have come out, and it's been awesome.
Big words, eh? The allegation of everyone hating the current government. Do you think that's in the communities that you're visiting, or was that just generally?
That's generally. And so when we're out on the hustings, of course we're meeting with our whānau where they are, but I've also sat in rooms with high corporate executives who say the same thing. And that's quite clear then to me that there is a general sentiment out there in Aotearoa that this government is taking New Zealand backwards.
Pehekui Oriini, you're used to being on the other side of the mic, but you're now in the field with the people. How's it been?
Yeah, what comes with that, my history as a reporter and a broadcaster is a natural knack for loving our people. I love being out in the community.
You now have to have reckons, though.
Yeah, I do, and that's different. That's odd. But what I'm really enjoying and loving at the start, I'll be honest, I don't do this. We don't do this in our neck of the woods, which is put ourselves forward to lead. We're used to being the two ICs, the ringa wera, the ringa raupa, the mamas, the papas, the bus drivers and stuff. So actually, not just myself, but pulling forward my hāpai, pulling forward the nannies and the koros, dusting off their flags. One kuia from Ngāti Paoa and a staunch Waititi West Side. She goes, I've got an original flag from Māti Māori in 2004. And I went, what is that? And it's just the stories that we're cultivating, but the experiences we're sharing together, seeing the joy in our tamariki's eyes, but also the learning. Kei te ako, tino ako ana mātou, but also I'm really loving and appreciating seeing the hope in the eyes of not just our rangatahi, but our kuia and kaumātua. We're giving them new life, another reason to get up in the morning, to have ahi in their belly, and that's what's actually motivating me to continue to come into that. And also, e mihi kawana au kia Peeni, e pono ana taku kōrero, we're not your typical politicians. We're not your typical people. We are fighting for our people. We are genuine people for our people, and I love that we can have robust discussions without takahi te mana o te tangata.
She out-broadcast you on that one, Peeni.
I'm sorry. No, and I just wanted to mihi.
Oh, look, just mihi nui kia ki tōku tuahine, kia kōruatahi. It's been a long time. We've all sat around these spaces for quite a number of years, and it's just one of those mediums to continue to connect with our whānau. So ngā mihi nui kia koe koutou.
All the best. Kia ora. I te whakarongo tātou kia Oriini Kaipara o te Pāti Māori, rawa ko Peeni Henare o te rōpū reipa, kai tono mo te rohi pōti o Tāmaki-Makau-Rau. No te mata o te ariro ki te mata o whakaro nui, tēnei koutou e tūhono mai ki tēnei pai kōrero. E mihi whakamāno atu nei ki te Māngai Pāho me irirangi te motu, nā rāua tēnei hōtaka I tautoko. We'll be back with more in a fortnight. Nohoro mai.